Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Rivenme.
And I'm Diana McCullum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of heroic television or film. And this week on the podcast, we are talking about that fresh Thor, Thor 4, More Thor, a.k.a. Thor, Love and Thunder.
I gotta say, as much as we say Thor 4, More Thor as a joke, it's a better title.
It's a better title.
It should
it's
be.
A better title.
Why is it? Taika is a man who'd do it. So why didn't he do it?
Yeah.
Thor 4, More Thor. Because there's even two Thors.
Now,
that's in the trailer. That's not a spoiler.
Taika is a whimsical human being, but I don't know if Taika is the type of whimsical that will like go with a fan goof. You know, I think Taika might be like inherently whimsical, but not a like let's play around with the fans.
You're gonna use my whimsy.
Yeah. I think it's like you get on Taika's page or you get off the whimsy boat. You know,
Taika don't get on your page.
Yeah, Taika ain't fucking with our whimsy.
Yeah, Thor 4 is for you. Love and Thunder's for me. All right, respect Taika.
Maybe.
You are the director.
It is Taika's choice, but Thor 4 More Thor is a fun title. I agree with you.
In a bracket afterwards.
I would have loved it.
More Thor.
I would have loved like for a movie that has like 80s hair metal style, which is kind of the era that we're in space currently, and I kind of like that the MCU is like the space was 70s, the space is 80s. Eventually, I'm sure we'll see space 90s movies. But I think in the style of a 90s hair ballad, it easily could have been called Thor, Love and Thunder, parenthetical Thor 4 More Thor. It feels very like 80s hair metal, like 90s early rock, where it's like there's no reason for the song title to be that long, and there's no reason to add a second title and a parenthetical, but we're doing it. I would have liked that.
Editors.
That would have been a fun vibe.
In the 80s and 90s had no editors. Every answer was there. Thor 4, More Thor, and this one he fights Gore. They just keep going.
Thor 4 More Thor versus Gore. Thor v. Gore, Thor 4 More Thor, Love and Thunder.
Sure, Love and Thunder, you can stay, I guess.
I love how we lose our minds on titles of movies now at the beginning of episodes. That's just our common thing.
We start where the movie starts with the title, even though most Marvel movies don't show the title till the very end. But we know the title going in.
We're starting from the very scratch, the very bottom.
From the top down.
So we're talking about Thor, Love and Thunder on today's podcast. Obviously a new movie that just came out. Whenever we talk about a new movie or TV show, we always give you a spoiler-free review. So we are going to give you a spoiler-free review, talk about it without any spoilies, in case you're on the fence about seeing it or you want a taste of the episode before you do get around to seeing it. Spoiler-free. Then once you hear the theme song kick in, after that will be the spoiler-filled section of the episode. Regular listeners, you know this. New listeners, welcome to the party, pal. That's what we do. Those are the rules. That's what we do. But let's start with a spoiler-free review. The simple question, Diana, did you like it?
I did like it. I quite liked it. It's no Ragnarok, which is what it's going to get compared to no matter what Taika's first outing with Thor. The comedy is very good. There's weird shifts of like some of the CG is spectacular and I'm like, oh, this is incredible. This is so good. And then there's scenes that I'm like, did you film this last week? This is not finished. Like, so I don't know what happened there because some scenes are just mind-blowingly awesome and then other scenes are not done, FYI, when you get there. But yeah, everyone has a pretty good time. I would say the jokes are the best part. The heart wants to be there and isn't kind of quite there. The story is a little bit messy, but there's like a lot of fun happening. I'm going to give it a like for the 2-hour flat runtime, just no matter what. There's a lot to like here. Like Thor's having fun. Natalie Portman is trying her best to have fun. It's there's a lot to like. It's no Thor Ragnarok, but it's still a very fun MCU movie overall. Andrew, did you like it?
Yeah, I think it's good, not great. It's good, not great. Definitely not elevated to a love. It's just good. I agree with pretty much everything that you said. I think that it works as a comedy. And, to compare it to Ragnarok, which we won't want to do too much, but obviously it's hard not to. I think Ragnarok has the comedy and a lot of heart, and this just has the comedy. And I almost feel like if I expected that going in, I think if I managed my expectations better, I actually might have had a slightly better time watching this. And I think if you're listening to the spoiler-free section and you haven't seen it yet, maybe lower your expectations by about 30% and you might be more satisfied going in, because between Ragnarok, between Our Flag Means Death recently, it's like Taika's been crushing it. And Taika's been doing great for a while, but Taika's been crushing it lately. And Ragnarok was so great, and I had high expectations. And I feel like if you rewatched Thor 1 and 2 before you came to see this, you'd be like, this movie fucking slaps. But if you rewatched Ragnarok right before you come to see this, you're just like, this is pretty good. So I think the comedy works. The heart's not there. It just doesn't connect. And I don't know if that's due to the failings of the writing or if there just is a Loki-shaped hole in this movie. But the heart isn't quite there. The comedy works. I agree with you. It is a weird combination of some of the best visual effects and some of the worst that the MCU has to offer. It is a real roller coaster. A very uneven movie all around. I think all of the performances are very good. I'm actually pretty satisfied with everybody across the board. And I think it is just kind of structuring and a lot of the plot structure and writing. I think the moment-to-moment writing, like the dialogue writing and just like the quips and the jokes, it all works. And I think it's just a little bit of sloppy craftsmanship in terms of the structure of it all. So there's a lot of positives, but it is a little uneven and just kind of good, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm gonna mostly agree with that. Yeah, I think the comedy definitely works. I think the movie thinks it has heart and doesn't get there very well, but I also think I might have liked it more because I didn't expect it to have heart. That's one of my few complaints about Ragnarok is every emotional moment gets undercut with a joke in Ragnarok, and there's very few actual emotional moments for me in that movie. So I was like, oh, you're going to undercut it with a joke? Yeah, you undercut it with a joke. So if you just expect it all to get undercut with a joke, you do have a little bit more fun. I agree with this because I was expecting it. I'm like, we're going to only get like 2 actual real human moments in this whole movie, I'm going to guess. And we kind of did. But yeah, overall, fun.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Ragnarok does undercut a lot of its emotion with jokes, but its emotion is there.
The emotion
and then
works,
undercut.
though. Yeah.
In this one, I think the emotion isn't there, and it's undercut with a joke, so it doesn't. It's more of a comedy, I would even say. But yeah, good, a little uneven, and can it be spoiled?
Pretty low for a Marvel movie. Like, obviously it can because it is a Marvel movie, but I would say of most of the recent Marvel movies, the least spoilable.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, really just like a Marvel movie. It has a post-credit, which I think is even then like a medium spoiler, non-plot relevant, but something that's still fun to experience. But in terms of the actual journey of the movie, I think it's just a movie. It has a beginning, middle, and end. There is a bad guy. We have to go after the bad guy. There's a big fight with the bad guy. And I don't think there's a lot in between that's going to catch people off guard.
No, if you've seen the trailer and you've seen Ragnarok, you're going to be like, yep.
Yeah,
there's not going to be like a big whoa moment.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I think 1 or 2 unexpected things, but I wouldn't really call them twists, or I think knowing them going in no way would hamper my enjoyment of the movie.
Yeah, that's just how movies work.
That's just how movies work.
Things happen.
Cool. So it is medium good to a high like for you, would you say?
I don't know if it's a high like. I'm gonna get like a 75%. How high is that? That's pretty high.
So I would say then maybe I'm around like a 70% mark. Similar vibes.
Excellent.
We're in the good-ish vibe, and we don't think it can be spoiled. So that's our spoiler-free review. Before we get into the spoiler-filled section, we want to thank one of our wonderful sponsors of today's episode. We want to thank our friends over at MeUndies.
I need to thank MeUndies for being very cool and comfortable all summer long.
And breathable, because that's what you want. It's important to have comfortable underwear all year long. Let's make that a 365 job. Have good underwear, take care of yourself. You deserve it. You deserve it. Your bits deserve it. But especially in the summertime when it's a little bit hotter, it's a little bit sweatier. I run hot. I want to have like a nice, comfortable, breathable. I want it to feel like a second layer of skin that's got my back throughout the summer. You know?
Yeah. Your bits are struggling in the heat, and you want to just give them a nice little present of some MeUndies.
Here
you go.
They be a struggling, all right. And MeUndies is fantastic. I've been rocking. They got really fun patterns. I've got like their taco ones, and I don't know. I like throwing on the taco underwear on Tuesday, and then just running around the house yelling Taco Tuesday. It's just. That's a fun vibe that I bring to the home if you were to live with me, but you could bring it to your home with their taco underwear.
It's fun and whimsical. MeUndies releases new prints all the time. They have a limited edition Pride collection. I have the Stranger Things bralette and underwear, and the bralette is so comfortable. Oh my God, all day I'm just like, oh, my girls feel great. Like, they're also so cute because they match. I'm like, Stranger Things is fun.
The anklet socks that they have are really good too. Really, really good, because like it's low enough that it is a relatively invisible line with a shoe or a sneaker, but it is high enough with that like double padded back of the ankle bit that it really prevents rubbing and anything kicking in. Like it's good for like it's good for lounging, full day of walking, running. Like it's a nice mix. But they have undies, bralettes, socks, underwear, loungewear, swimwear. Sizes small to 4XL. They've really got you covered.
Yeah, MeUndies has a great offer for our listeners. For any first-time purchasers, you get 15% off. For a limited time, if you sign up for their free-to-join MeUndies membership, you get 25% off your first membership item.
So to get 15% off your first order, 25% off your first membership item, and a 100% satisfaction guarantee, go to MeUndies.com/TFS. That's MeUndies.com/TFS. 15% off first order, 25% off membership, 100% satisfaction. Thank you, MeUndies.
Thank you for your support.
And now let's get into the spoiler-filled section of the episode. Let's talk about Thor 4, More Thor, Thor, Love and Thunder.
Now fight Gore.
So it was fun. It was good. It was definitely funny. Some of the laughs were big, and it was just a little uneven.
It was a little uneven. I mean, I'm going to probably recommend any movie that gets as big a laughs from me as this movie does. Like, even if the heart's not there, as long as nothing's, like, terribly problematic and I laughed as hard as I did, I'm like, that's worth your time.
True.
Who doesn't love to laugh? I need a laugh these days.
That is true. That is true. I did have a chuckle. Like, the movie has a pretty fun vibe when we starting out with the Thor stuff. Like, I like Thor with the Guardians. I think it's a fun tone. It feels a little bit like a webisode mini movie, like a Guardians 2.1, not quite anything, but it is fun, and that is a really playful section, and like the Korg voiceover works, and I love the blue dude.
The king that is
the blue
you're here to save us.
And when like Thor does stuff, just him being like, wow. Like I love the energy that guy brings. I'm like, that was very much my energy sitting in the movie theater. I loved that guy.
He also had a great energy in his second scene, which is like Thor's leaving, and it's like, we got you this present to thank you, and he's like, I'm so sorry about the castle. He's like, I don't want to talk about the castle. We don't. Nope, we're not talking about the castle. Like, yeah, the opening scene, to just be weird about pacing, though, is because, like, this is the big problem, is it's very weird that it opens with Gore, and, like, you get his backstory. Mm-hmm. And then from his backstory transitioning into a montage about Thor's backstory. It's just two backstories in a row, which is very weird pacing. It was like, oh, I thought we were going to, like, go right into a battle sequence. Because the backstory is, like, 5 minutes long. It's like, we assume you haven't seen a Thor movie or haven't seen it in 10 years, which is when Thor came out. So, yeah, there's just weird pacing right off the top. It's Gore, and then it's Thor, and they both just get montage origins back to back.
Yeah, and I think starting with Gore was a poor choice. I didn't like it. I get that they're trying to make... I think a lot of things trying to make a sympathetic villain that shouldn't be a sympathetic villain. And I think by starting this to be like, but his daughter dies, and also the sword is cursed, and also there's like 9 reasons this isn't his fault. I'm like, just let him be a bad guy. Like, one of the great things about Ragnarok is it was like Cate Blanchett shows up and it's like, I'm here, I'm Hela, kill that guy, kill this guy, fuck everyone. It's like, oh, okay, like this energy really works. You're a great classic villain. You're selling the shit out of it. And I just think that like not every villain needs to be empathized with. Some we can, but it just falls flat on this one. I think Gore is way more terrifying if he just showed up later into his story and he was just the god killer, but being but he's a mad dad, but he's not that mad, but also the sword is cursed, but it's his fault, but it's not his fault, but don't worry. I'm like, there's like 9 things going on. I kind of don't fucking care about this guy, frankly.
It was a lot. Like, I actually do like a sympathetic villain. Like, I like one you can empathize with. But actually, it all depends on execution because Hela's so fun. Like, Hela is just like, just fight her as much as you can. Like, yeah, there is there is something about completely fightable, non-empathetic ones and empathetic ones. But this one was just way too much. Because also I was like guessing what was happening wrong. Like he drank some water and then he cut his hand and it healed immediately. And I'm like, did that water make you immortal? And then you picked up the sword? And like, but then you're like eating fruit in a garden, which is usually like a curse thing in mythologies. And I'm like, there is way too much happening.
And I think that
you
like
just stumbled on a god?
there is a bit of that, and we'll kind of probably like stumble on that as we go throughout the movie. But a few times in the movie, it has that where it's like, here's a close up of a thing, and then a thing happened. It wasn't that thing. Don't worry about it. I'm like, well, then like it's a little kind of clunky storytelling visually to be like, was it the cut on the hand? Was it magical water? Was it magical fruit? Did you see the oasis? Why did you see the oasis?
How
was
did you
it
get
calling
in?
you? Was it the sword? And then just like. And the sword kind of being mystical and sliding into his hand, like that's a cool moment. But like there's just a little too much going on in that scene.
Yeah, if it was a cleaner scene, the sword thing's actually way cooler. If he just like stumbles on a normal oasis and he's like, there's no close up of his hand, there's no like implication that he just became immortal via like a fountain of youth or something, which is what I thought had happened. The sword thing was cool. Just had some basic backstory. This god sucks.
Yeah.
Most gods suck.
And I think that
Thor
is like
the exception, not the rule.
And I think the movie like doesn't lean into that enough. It kind of like brushes off of it. It glances that theme, but I don't think that's the theme of the movie. I think like the theme of the movie is like, don't do that. Don't murder gods. Don't go around doing murders, or like don't go to your wishing well and undo all gods. Don't Thanos snap but for gods.
Yeah.
Is kind of like the thing, and not being like, if you're a god, be a good god, which seems like it's a way more important theme.
Yeah, the theme should be if you have power, use your power for good reasons. Mm-hmm. Not even necessarily if you're a god, but you know, people are in positions of power. And Ragnarok was such a clear like colonialism is bad and like really huge themes about it. Like, and this one was very much just like, oh, those poor gods.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what?
What? Huh?
What do you mean those poor gods?
Yeah. And like, they show but don't tell in all the wrong places, and in some places tell but don't show. Like that giant creature when Thor's like, that's the nicest god you could ever meet. And I'm like, okay, why didn't we meet them?
I'd love to have met him.
And then be sympathetic to them. So like there's little things like that where it's like, you told, but you should show.
And when's the last time you even saw this? Was it when you used to be a jerk, Thor? Because you used to be a jerk.
Yeah,
and I bet you haven't seen that guy since you were an asshole in Thor 1. Mm-hmm. So your level of who's a nice guy might be totally swayed.
Yeah, completely
skewed.
Fucked. And on the gore tip, while we're breaking down gore a little bit, one thing I will say, I think Christian Bale has forgotten how to do his own British accent.
Okay, thank you.
Do we all feel this, right?
Well, it was just different every scene. And he didn't have long enough scenes or enough scenes for me to be like, what has he chosen to do?
He did this transatlantic middle of the water nothing, but like even transatlantic is like a choice and sometimes exists and is purposeful. But he just on a sentence by sentence, line by line basis was like full on British or full on American.
Yeah.
And I think he's just forgotten how to do his sincere, because he only acts with an American accent for like over a decade.
Oh yeah, I don't remember the last time I saw him be British.
So I think he has forgotten, maybe? I think he's just forgotten how to do his own accent because he's been speaking with an American accent, which happens. Like I can't remember what movie it was, but Gary Oldman, who's a British man, had been doing American movies for so long that I forget what movie it was. He got cast to play a man from the neighborhood he lived in and had to hire a dialect coach to retrain him in his own accent.
Oh my God.
Because he didn't know what his own accent was anymore. So it does happen, but it's clearly happening here.
It's just so weird because Bale is so method and he takes his roles so seriously. But I guess there could have been like this is going to be a fun role for me where I don't take the role seriously and like overanalyze it and try to get an Oscar. And I just won't even care what my accent sounds like scene per scene, I guess. Because when it first changed, I thought it changed because he became a god. Because he definitely sounded different when he was like with his daughter than he did when he like got his powers and killed that first god. But then it kept flip-flopping.
Yeah.
So past that.
There was a moment there where it was like, does being a god make you British? And I'm like, maybe. There's something kind of that works about that. But
I like that idea because all the gods also speak English. Like, you know, Thor's slightly British, not quite, but like he's got that like high upper cadence.
Yeah.
The opening montage with Thor, to get back to the positive,
Yeah.
is very, very fun. Just like wearing like a baby Yertle into battle, like on his mom. Like she's like carrying him in the
the flashbacky part.
The very far
yeah.
the flashback within the montage of like this is how long Thor has been going to battle. Very, very funny stuff. Probably the funniest joke in the whole movie is the screaming goats.
The screaming goats really works. And it seems like something that like they went to that well and used that joke enough that it should have become unfunny. But it never did. They knew the timing between the beats absolutely flawlessly. Screaming Goats was always funny.
Screaming Goats was always funny, and they paced it perfectly, but also just like the choice of the scream is so important. Because it's very human. It's like a human in battle, like about to be killed kind of scream. They did not go and find out what goats sound like when they scream, unless that's what goats sound like when they scream.
I think that there are screaming goats that sound, I don't know what audio clip they used, but
I think there are screaming goats, and I don't think they sound like that. I hope.
Let's
because
hope
the choice of the scream is what really did it for me. Not the fact that these guys just scream, but the fact that it's just like casual screams. It is panic attack screams.
I love it. I love the way that they scream, the frequency of the joke, like just them screaming uncomfortably as they're introduced on the ship and just screaming the whole time.
They're like leading the ship and there's like no stealth.
Yeah.
Because these guys won't shut up.
And then, like, they hit that joke a few beats in a row, and then they wait enough between each subsequent beat. Like, I think, like, at Omnipotent City, when, like, they smash through the glass, and it's, like, the whistle, and then just, and just coming, that is perfect. And then in the black and white realm, right before they crash into the planet, and I had forgotten that they were driving that boat, and just as they hit into the planet is the perfect comedy. Absolutely perfect comedy.
I absolutely forgot about the part where they hit the planet because they did the perspective to make you think it was a regular sized planet and it's just like a meteor.
Yeah.
So like you think you still have so much further to go and they just slammed into it. God, that was so funny.
That was really, really funny perspective work. Yeah, that every bit of that joke worked. I love the goats.
Love the goats. Shout out goats.
I think the other comedy piece that killed me every time throughout this movie is the hammer jokes. Is the hammer / Stormbringer / lightning bolt treating your accessories as your relationships and embodiments of such, and to be like, the Mjolnir is your ex, and like referring to it as that was comedy gold to me.
It absolutely worked. It was maybe a little too much altogether when he first met Jane, but for the most part, it was just so incredibly funny. Every time Stormbreaker would just like ease into frame to remind him that he's currently in a relationship with another weapon.
Yeah.
So funny.
But even like Stormbreaker easing into frame, kind of paralleling him easing into frame when Star-Lord was talking, of like him and Stormbringer, Breaker?
I think it's Breaker.
Breaker, yeah, sorry. Him and Stormbreaker both having that needy energy to be like, look at me, look at me, look at me.
Don't
I want to
leave
be
me.
seen. Look at me. Don't leave me. Look at me. That level of neediness they both have, I think, is really fun. And like, they don't draw a lot of attention to that, but I think that made Stormbringer sliding into frame even funnier for me.
It did, and it added a little bit to the story that these weapons really do have at least a minor personality, because like Mjolnir did have to choose Jane. Like, this is not just a like Thor is gifting these upon you or something. Like, clearly they do have at least a bit of personality to them, and they're slightly alive because they get to choose who uses them. Maybe not Stormbreaker. It seems like everyone can use Stormbreaker to make a Bifrost. It's not very picky.
Yeah, I think Stormbreaker's just like down to clown. Like, just let's have a good time.
Whoever
here.
can wield me can use me.
It seemed reluctant to gore, but not like fully the ability to shut itself down.
I mean, even Axel, Heimdall's kid, could use Stormbreaker. He bifrosted all the kids out there.
Yeah, but like he's the kid of the guy who could control the Bifrost.
That's super cool. I mean, he was just a kid, but like that was a really cool moment. I was happy for Heimdall and for his kid. I'm like, yeah, Heimdall, bits of Heimdall are still here.
It's so nice to see a piece of Heimdall around and the kid with the all sight and like that was a really nice legacy character. Mm-hmm. I was on board for that, and I think too that I don't even know what the word for it is. The imbuing the magical spell on Mjolnir.
Oh, onto the kids.
Onto the kids. Well, I was going to say both from the lightning bolt onto the kids, and also when he's so in love with Jane that he enchants. I think enchant was the word that my brain was losing there. He ensorcels.
We love ensorcel.
He enchants
in this
or he ensorcels. But basically, like, he puts onto Mjolnir the same, like, level of conditions that his father put onto it, but it is for Jane now. And, like, seeing that loving moment where he's talking to his friend Mjolnir, and again, like, recontextualizing and embedding that relationship with Mjolnir as well, and, like, why Mjolnir then is, like, looking out for Jane. I thought that was sweet. And then again, with the lightning bolt at the end, I think that was really sweet.
I think the lightning bolt thing was really nice, actually. Like, as much as we're, like, very not kid-oriented, I will say, as someone who, like, actually thinks children are a little bit scary, to give a bunch of feral children some superpowers might be the most terrifying thing you can do. You're like, yeah, those shadow creatures don't stand a chance.
No, they fucked.
Even without powers, I don't want to fight a bunch of children. Like, they're wily and they're weird. You never know what they're gonna do. They got strange ideas, and then they're like, yeah, little kids are weird.
They are weird. They've got
they've
got strange ideas. It's just such a great and weird embodiment of children.
Like they like did such a good job. Like the one girl shooting it out of a rabbit, the other girl who's just like too into it and splits a shadow creature in two. You're like, yeah, kids are
scared.
Up.
All these kids are gonna have a real good nap later. Like they are gonna have a good nap, and all these shadow creatures should not have fucked with these kids.
Yeah, they're gonna drop.
Yeah, but yeah, I thought that was really sweet of him like speaking the words and like sending some of the magic from himself and Asgard into the weapons of the children and being like, yeah, why couldn't you enchant a bunch of random rock sticks or whatever these kids found? Like that makes a lot of sense and was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a great way for the kids to get to save themselves.
Yeah,
because like, you know, they're kind of warriors. They're warriors kids. It's always nice to just have some agency for every character in a movie.
Yeah, and I do even like the comedy though, to be like, when he's like, you're Asgardians, and it's just like, I'm not. Like some of the kids aren't, and that is very funny to me. I really liked that.
Yeah, just like New Asgard's this like refugee place for like aliens from anywhere. He's like, I'm just like a wolf thing. You can also have Thor powers. Jane's a human.
Anyone can be anything.
Anyone can be a Thor. It's the new Spider-Man.
We're all being that. Now, how do you feel about Jane's arc in this?
Jane's arc, I didn't have a lot of problems with. Jane I flipped back and forth with. Some of her arc I thought was really nice, like some really powerful moments, like when she would drop the hammer and like turn back into like human, like dying Jane.
Yeah,
would be very visually striking because like she's so jacked and she looks so good as Mighty Thor. And then like when she's in the bathroom and she drops it and she like just turns back into dying cancer Jane. I was like, oh man, that is shocking. But like, in terms of other stuff, it kind of felt like Natalie Portman was trying too hard in a lot of scenes. It felt like she was like, oh, I'm in the funny Taika one. Yeah, I got to work really hard at comedy. And I actually think generally in other things I've seen her in, she's very good at comedy. And I felt like she was just trying really hard and not quite getting there.
It felt like they rewrote her character a little bit. There were times where flat out it felt like Darcy picked up the hammer and not Jane. And love Kat Dennings, love Darcy. One scene was too few for Darcy in this one.
Give her that hammer.
Give Darcy that hammer. Get more Darcy around. Also a hot year for product placement for Flaming Hot Cheetos.
Yeah, DC and Marvel.
Flaming Hot Cheetos are fucking everywhere with their in movies and TV show product placement.
They might be the continuity between the two universes.
Flaming Hot Cheetos are what can unite us all, apparently. But there were moments where Jane flat out felt like she was given Darcy dialogue of this like very aloof, a little bit confused. Like the trying out new catchphrases thing didn't really feel like Jane or the Jane that we knew. And like you can rewrite a character a bit, but it didn't quite feel right at times.
Oh, I didn't mind catchphrases because that did feel like, I have superpowers now. Even like whatever my personality is, I'm trying a little, like I'm trying to like match it. But like things when she was just super aggressive about teaching that guy black holes or Einstein bridges.
Yeah.
Like it was very funny, but just so aggressive and very Darcy. Like that was a very Darcy scene. That's how Darcy would rip someone's book up and be like, this is what it is. It's this.
Yeah.
But Jane has been so like, and this is before she had powers. Jane's always been so like, science is so cool and I'm going to show it to you like gently and with kindness. To just rip that guy's book up I'm like, that doesn't feel like you.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels aggressive and weird, and it feels like a joke machine kind of wrote it. It feels like it was written for Taika to deliver and not for her to deliver. Maybe it's a little off.
And then she just had some flip flops of like, what is this character when she's got powers? Because sometimes she wants to rush right in, and then other times she's like, I'm gonna do whatever Valkyrie says. We need a plan. We need to have structure. So I'm like, are you headstrong or are you a plan person? I don't really get a feel of who the mighty Thor is.
Right.
Except trying her best. She's trying her ding-dong best.
She's definitely trying her best, and she's a lot of fun, and she looks amazing.
Oh my gosh, she looks amazing.
She looks goddamn terrific, and I think Natalie is doing her best, but I think like the writing is not quite there for her. It's just not the right writing for who the character is.
It's not the right writing. And then there's just that really weird scene where we get a flashback and we find out her mom also died of cancer. What was that?
That's wildly unnecessary.
I mean, you're already dying of cancer, and like she didn't even like teach you a lesson about it that you're taking with you. Like, use every day or like make it count or like she just kind of died and didn't say anything about it.
No.
What was this for?
It's not for anything. And like scenes like that in movies are typically there to like contextualize a character's trauma or make a character more likable. Like that is pretty much the exact scene that is Peter Quill's backstory.
I was just about to say.
And it's with Peter Quill's backstory, it's like this is why he's sad. This is why he's alone. This is why he ran away. This is why he has an attitude and also a longing for family. And it's like, okay, you're a sympathetic character. This motivates you. But in this scenario, it's like, here's a character you're familiar with who is dying. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm sympathetic towards her. And then it's just like, but would you be more sympathetic if her mother also died? I'm like, I guess. I think I'm actually pretty much the same.
Absolutely the same. I think I might just be like, if your mom also died of cancer, maybe get screened a little sooner before stage 4.
Sure, yeah. Like
before stage 4,
well,
Jane?
You've also had an Infinity Stone in you.
Ooh, that can really move things along.
That's definitely a cancer where the doctor was like, you didn't inject an infinity. One of the concepts of reality wasn't injected into you, was it?
Oh yeah, because it also wasn't removed in like the safest way. The elves just pulled it out of her.
Yes, the elves / or Rocket, depending on which version of the timeline.
I mean, you know what? Rocket gave her cancer.
Rocket gave her cancer. How about that?
We're throwing it out there.
So it's just we didn't need that extra element to make it sympathetic because I was already sad for her either way.
Yeah, it was a wild scene that didn't go anywhere, and it felt like it was part of a storyline that must have got cut, but then the rest of it wasn't cut.
Yeah,
it really felt like a remnant of something else.
It does feel like that. But I was glad that Natalie got to be Mighty Thor. I was glad to see this evolution of Jane, and also like glad that like even with a tragic death, I'm sure that was before that was written or as it was being written was negotiated with Natalie as to like, would you like to come back and hang around or would you like to come in for a swan song / goodbye for this character? And I'm glad that she got that here, you know?
I'm also glad she got that because like it must be sad to have left the Thor franchise right before Ragnarok, before it got hot. And yeah, I actually think the end of the movie is her strongest parts when she comes back. Her final fight, her final death scene. They actually have great chemistry during her dying part. I actually don't think they have chemistry for most of this movie. And while they're dying, she's dying, they are really tapped into each other.
I think they have good chemistry during the relationship flashback.
I was also going to say, during the montage and the flashback, they're super cute together. And then I don't know what's happening in the current day, but they never quite click.
I think, I don't know. I don't know if it is just, being on a blue screen soundstage versus a practical set, or if it is just the awkward clumsiness of two people being in giant, slightly awkward, misshapen superhero costumes versus, like if you're Chris Hemsworth and Natalie Portman sitting on an actual human couch together, both wearing a hoodie, you can kind of flirt and have romance easier. Whereas when you are standing on a pallet of wooden boxes in front of a blue screen being told that you're flying through space and both of you are wearing a 40-pound suit made of like stiff Kevlar and aluminum and like you can't move normally or comfortably.
Hard to flirt.
Then maybe it's just harder to have a natural chemistry in a very unnatural situation,
I get that. I will say one last thing about that because I agree. I didn't agree with Thor that he thought it was weird that Jane showed up dressed as him until they started making out, and I'm like, oh, you're both dressed the same. That is weird. It wasn't
I mean, he
weird.
changed his outfit a little.
He did, but they're both still Thor costumes.
They're still Thor costumes, but I do like that when he saw her in the exact Thor costume, that he was just like, lightning bolt, Thor 2.0. We just need let's add some blue, let's add some sleeves.
I gotta look upgraded.
Let's do a slightly different look.
I gotta get a new skin.
Yeah, let's go with formal Thor. I have sleeves now, despite my arms being massive.
I mean, it makes it more impressive when his clothes get flicked away.
Yeah.
Because you haven't seen his arms for like an hour.
You forget for a minute. Oh, come on. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's take a quick break in the episode to thank one of our other wonderful sponsors. We want to thank our friends over at Quip.
Oh, Quip. Quip makes it easy to get good health and good habits by delivering all the oral care essentials you need for your mouth straight to your door. From your door to your mouth. All the good stuff.
My door is where I like the good things to be. And then later, obviously, in the mouth. It's a phenomenal electric toothbrush that is loved by over 7 million mouths, one of which is mine. I brush
me.
And you as well.
Two of the 7 million.
I didn't want to speak for you,
You've seen me brush my teeth.
Now we know 2 of the 7 million mouths are right here speaking into these microphones. But I like it. It's timed with sonic vibrations. Every 30-second, it pulses to guide a dentist-recommended 2-minute clean. So I pop it in, it starts vibrating, it's cleaning my teeth. I feel the little pulse. I'm like, time to switch quadrants. I switch it over. I think to myself, it's time to switch quadrants. And I'm like, I like the word quadrants. This is what's going through my head. You got to fill the time somehow while you're brushing your teeth.
Oh, it's great. I love rules and I like structure. So I'm like, this is the greatest way to brush my teeth I could ever imagine. I know every section is getting the exact same amount of care and the amount that a dentist recommends. Mwah.
It's easy, and it's lightweight. It's got a sleek design with no wires or bulky charger. It's got a multi-use travel cover that doubles as a mirror mount as well. So I actually got two Quips. I got one with the mirror mount, just sits in my bathroom at all times, and I've got one in my like little to-go bag that I take around with me all the time because I also have aligners right now, which means I'm brushing them teethies a little bit more than even normally, and having the Quip with the little travel mount ready to go at all times is really smooth and easy.
And what's amazing, if you're like Andrew and brushing your teeth a lot, is you can also track and improve your brushing with the free Quip app and earn rewards for brushing your teeth, a thing you're already doing. You can get free refills, you can get products, you can get Target gift cards just for brushing your teeth.
And they also have other accessories as well. You can get anti-cavity toothpaste. They have floss. They have 2 different ways. You get the floss string or you can get the floss pick. They have gum that's sugar-free, refillable mouthwash. A lot of different options, so you can get everything that you need shipped right to your door. And if you go to getquip.com/super right now, you'll get your first refill free. That's your first refill free at getquip.com/super. That's spelled GETQUIP.com/super. Quip, the Good Habits Company. And thank you, Quip, for your support.
Thank you, Quip. And now, we need to talk about CG. Should we start with
Sure.
good or should we start with bad?
Ooh, let's start with bad.
Let's start with bad.
Let's start with bad. Let's get bad out of the way.
What was going on in New Asgard with those shadow monsters? That scene was wretched.
That scene was miserable, huh?
There is the whole time when Jane and Thor are talking, like he realizes it's her and they actually are like, Jane, Thor, the whole time, there are about 24 extras behind both of them fighting nothing. There are no monsters filled in. Mm-hmm. It is a blank background of just people pretending to fight monsters that were not CG'd in any way. It was so distracting. I was looking back there and I'm like, even though it's like shadow monsters and it's dark, I'm like, there's literally nothing.
Right. And also too, like the space didn't make any sense. Like sometimes it felt like it was just kind of like a Whose Line Is It Anyway green screen where they were just playing a video, because there were times where I'm like, I feel like the kids should be running through Jane right now. Like the space and geography of it didn't make sense. The choreography of where things were moving in relation to where our lead characters were having a conversation.
Yeah, I think the people were filmed separately, and Thor and Jane were on blue screens. Okay.
Oh yes.
Okay, I didn't know it was that obvious. I'm sorry.
Because I was going to say, I think what's miserable about that scene, I noticed a totally different terrible thing about that scene.
Tell me more about the bad thing.
And I think that when people talk about like how MCU air quotes CGI has gotten bad, 90% of the time they're not actually talking about CGI in the sense of computer generated images. They're talking about compositing, green screening / blue screening, an actor on a soundstage who's then being cut out and put over something else. That, when people like online share this, like, look how terrible this scene looked, this shot looked, and look at this bad CGI, it's bad compositing. And that
the colors and lighting aren't matching.
Colors and lighting are the huge, because in that scene, it's like Jane and Thor Mighty Thor and Thor are having a full conversation, and they look like they are staring directly at the sun. They are lit for a perfume commercial. They are golden. I think they were filmed in the daytime. And then behind them is a bunch of children fighting shadow monsters, so dim and poorly lit that I couldn't even notice they weren't fighting anything. And none of the lighting made sense. Like it stuck out like a sore thumb. And I think that is one of Marvel's big problems with like people who criticize their air quote CGI right now. And I think it is a combination of A, they're not matching their colors and they're not doing their color correcting properly. And B, they are not thinking about where the scene's going to go in the movie or the scene's changing later. And C, the lighting technician, when they're lighting their green screen shots, is not giving one fucking thought to where the light is coming from. So it is Natalie Portman as Jane, walks out on a soundstage, stands on an apple box, is in front of a blue screen, and then a lighting person is like, well, I'm going to put the sun in front of you. That's where the sun goes. And either they weren't told, they don't know, or they don't care about what time of day the scene is, where Jane's supposed to be standing in the street in relation to Thor. There's just no time or thought or carefulness given to it.
But it only happens sometimes, which is weird. Like this whole sequence felt like it was filmed late, maybe not even filmed by Taika. Like it didn't quite match the style of the rest of the movie. Because also what was so weird about it was that they didn't get Jamie Alexander to play Sif in the beginning of that scene. Because they transport in, Thor transports in, and he's got Sif who's half dead, and he's like, get her to the med bay, and it's clearly just a stunt woman hiding her face and not actually Jamie Alexander. I'm like, it would be weird to just come for this one scene, but also that feels like very like, we refilmed this very late.
Interesting.
And we just had to hide everything about it. But you're absolutely right about the lighting. It's so shockingly obvious. And like, I don't know anything about CG. Like, I don't know if you have to really like light people so that they can get cut out into the green screen very well so that they will composite. But then you have to darken them somehow. You have to. You absolutely have to match these things up.
There's lots of different ways in which they can match it up. And I think that where parts of the movie work versus where things don't is when it gets handed off to a second team. And I don't even want to blame the people who are doing it, because there are lots of like, you know, air quote, allegedly insider reports of like, it's an executive problem, it's a money problem, it's a timeline problem. So I'm sure that there are people who are working on it who are doing their best in the circumstances they are given, which is either too little budget or too little time. But where things work in this movie are clearly things that Taika was hands-on for. So for where it is, here is my vision, I need to execute this like perfectly. And Taika did that. But that's Taika shit, and Taika probably directly communicating two different visual effects departments. But when it comes to Taika or a second unit director being like, all right, Chris, you just need to hammer out these couple of lines on a green screen, and then they just send that to another department, and Taika is not going to personally supervise a visual effects artist rotoscoping and just cutting around Chris Hemsworth. Why would he? That's a waste of Taika's time. But when Taika's like, all right, this is the black and white scene, the hammer's gonna glow, and I want a soft silhouette of light and body imbuing out and putting color into this world of black and white, that's an artistic choice that he could very likely and more than likely did oversee and directly communicate with the people who are working that out.
I was going to say the exact same thing. Yeah, the things that were Taika's vision were impeccable. Like that you could tell that he was like, this is a money shot. Like very on par with the strobe effect when Hela was killing the Valkyries in Ragnarok. Like that incredible scene. He's like, I'm going to do something brand new. So yeah, I feel like there is such a good mix as well of like Omnipotent City is like the brightest, most cool thing you've ever seen. It's shockingly CG, but like in a cool way. You're in awe. And then you have black and white Christian Bale's world. Like so much difference happening here. Like so much good stuff that is clearly like I have a vision for these things and they're going to be executed flawlessly. Because I loved Omnipotent City. The black and white world looked so great. It was such a cool idea of like just a thing you haven't seen in a superhero movie or really anything. Just a movie that shifts to black and white suddenly, but like you can have bits of color if your weapons create light. You can bring light into the world. Just a lot of great stuff happening visually. For sure.
I think it is. There are examples of other movies doing similar things. I don't know if doing all of them at once, of the shifting from color to black and white, then also having a color pop of certain objects, then also having those objects imbue light and color into the world as they literally break through the darkness. There's a lot of elements that I don't know if they've necessarily been combined in the way they've been combined. And adding to that, just the way that this temple, shack, tent, whatever the hell it is that Gore is living in, yurt. I don't know what the fuck Gore's lifestyle is. He's glamping.
I don't know who his real estate agent is. He might be his own real. I think he's squatting.
Yeah, he's squatting. Let's call it squatting. He's squatting in this yurt. But even like the shadows, the way the spiders come out of the ground as well, like pulling everyone in, covering their mouths. And in that scenario too, that like, even though we've kind of made fun of Christian Bale's performance a little bit for the accent work and for the writing and backstory of not landing, there are moments where he really does hit as this character, even with the accent fading in and out, which can be slightly distracting. It's like, you're still intimidating as hell. Your character design's really good. Your robes look cool. This black and white world that you live in is amazing. Every time we see you, you have more scars and you're falling apart, or like you've hurt yourself during battles as you killed other gods. There's implications in visual storytelling as well that's so important. So I think that like that black and white section hits so goddamn hard.
Yeah,
that is so nice.
He's like, losing color as he's dying and becoming more evil and killing more gods. It's honestly in a scene that could have been completely cut because it didn't really affect anything, but that I loved was when he just took some time to scare the kids. He was just like just being this like terrible babysitter who's like, I'm going to tell you guys a story and I'm going to cut this thing's head off. He's like, you liked it before. And you're like, as much as the accent is bad, like terrifying stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I feel like with a little bit more to do and a little bit more interaction with Thor, Gore could have been up there as like a really memorable top tier villain.
Yeah, I agree. Gore, it's a hair's breath away
it's so close,
from really
the
working.
The design is so cool. Yeah, it's hard to make simple robes be like, that guy looks great. Because he's just wearing some like simple kind of robes, but like the lighting and the structure of them and the way the oil and goo that comes out of him affects the robes is just making it phenomenal.
And I think that despite the accent issues, I think Bale is good casting for this character as well, to be like, we want someone who's just kind of like simple and modest and a bit much. Like someone who is just a little too intense for their own good. And I'm like, that's Christian Bale as a human being and an actor. Like that's actually pretty tight. So
Christian, you're this close to goring it up in the real world.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
you are a hair's breadth away, my friend.
He's gonna start punching out directors, which are the gods of actors.
Oh yeah, I mean like
he's come pretty close.
There's audio clips of him screaming at lighting guys. That's why he lives in a black and white world now. You can't.
No lighting man will work with him.
Exactly. So even though I know that that's not actually relevant to lighting, but you get what I'm saying. His yurt is very powerful and very important and very fun, and I love that section. That whole whole section works.
There's a lot of things that like work in a cool way, and then like I think it doesn't get cool again. Like I don't think getting to the middle of eternity is nearly as cool as the black and white world or Omnipotent City. Which is a weird way to like scale up your movie.
Eternity did have some cool moments, like I
like the simplicity of just the water on the ground. Like actually, that's like it's stunning in a way, but it's not like a black and white world or Omnipotent City.
And this like 2-dimensional cutout of a deity that is made of the galaxy, but it has no depth, but all depth at the same time. Like it is like a Paper Mario cutout of what a god would look like. It's not as cool as the black and white section, but I think there were some cool moments about Eternity. And also I think like using all of their weapons as lighting, I think just generally was very playful, whether it was the black and white section where they're emitting light as a device to add and inject color into a scene, or something like Eternity where it is a very dark scene and we're using the fact that all of the children now have these lightning weapons to imbue light and the ability to see what the hell is going on into the scene.
I will complain a little bit that I don't think the light did enough, because they had a line on their way to the Shadow Realm, which is like, this is the Shadow Realm and he controls shadows. He's going to be more powerful here. And that's why I thought we needed Zeus's lightning bolt, because it would like make shadows go away and it would make him weaker. But none of the light seemed to hurt him or help them. It really was just like visually there. It wasn't incorporated into the story. And I'm like, we need the lightning bolt because it makes light, right? And he's a shadowy man. And they're like, no, it's gonna look cool. It's just gonna be and it's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool that you have Zeus's lightning bolt and like Valkyrie gets to rock it and like, you know, we lose all the other weapons. But I'm like, oh, this wasn't integrated into the story though.
It was not integrated. I agree. It's a bit of a missed opportunity there. I think one other location I want to jump over to is Omnipotent City. We didn't really talk much about Omnipotent City. I think that's a fun section. I kind of love Russell Crowe just chewing the scenery, doing the best, worst job of everything. It's frankly perfect.
I was surprised how much I like it, and I shouldn't say I'm surprised because, God, I hate to admit it, I like Russell Crowe in everything. I like Russell Crowe in Man of Steel, for God's sake.
Yeah.
I rewatched the Russell Crowe parts of Man of Steel.
A
man.
There's something about Russell Crowe just eating shit but knowingly doing so that really works.
But also, he really did, for like a silly character, he like... For that also moment where he comes down, he whispers to Thor, he's like, we can't do anything because Gore might come here and we can't let him. And he like gets serious and he brings it down. And I'm like, in like 3 lines, you've added 4 layers to Zeus. Like he's not just a silly orgy man. Like he knows what's going on. He actually is tapped into like the story of what's happening to all the other gods. He doesn't care, but he has a plan and he doesn't want you to mess it up. I'm like, oh shit. There is so much happening. Like your performance is fun, but you're also like, then you feel powerful.
Yes, I fully agree. Fully agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even like, and powerful right after a very silly moment of like how he jauntily walks down the steps. Like
you're
that's so funny.
Uninvited to the orgy.
So funny,
Everything
so
about
good.
The orgy was so funny.
I love it, and it's like, yeah, of course, the Greco-Roman gods were all about orgies. They were fucking everything all of the time in any given story or scenario.
And what a just room full of Easter eggs!
Holy! We have, at the time of recording, we saw this movie once on opening night. We have not had a second viewing to grab more Easter eggs. We have not seen the screen grabs. I'm sure by the time you hear this, the internet probably have broken down everything that's going on. But yeah, like Celestials abound, Bow and Korgs. And I like that Korg's god is sitting on basically the Iron Throne from Game of Thrones, but it's made of scissors because rock beats scissors.
There are some really great Korg jokes in this movie. I will say one that is crazy, and I'll throw this at you. They don't show him, but I don't remember which one of them said it. At one point, they're like, oh, it's the god of carpentry. Is that Jesus?
I do remember that line, but I don't think the camera cut to who she was pointing at.
No, which is why I think it's probably Jesus. Like, we can't show Jesus.
Yeah, I think that might have been the implication and joke.
And honestly, I think that's very funny that Jesus is just the god of carpentry. Like, that's what he gets boiled down to in the grand scheme of things.
Sure, yeah.
He made a great bench.
Not enough people talk about how good the carpentry was.
Hey, have you ever made a table for 12 disciples?
I have not.
It's hard.
That's a long table.
Long table. You all sit on one side.
Mm-hmm.
You could double up, but you're not gonna. You're all gonna be on one side. You need 12 chairs. A lot of carpentry.
Complicated joists
Joists.
inside there. I don't know if I'm using joists correctly, but yeah, a lot of fun stuff. Celestials hanging outside the window and stuff.
Fucking celestials.
And then in eternity in the hall too, it seems like all of the progenitor species, all of the origin species have like giant heads on the wall. So there's a celestial. There is one of the watchers. Whether or not it's a Watu, I don't know, but it's a watcher. And I couldn't catch what the other species were, but like the original maybe a Beyonder might be there, but there's some original species of the galaxy all lined across the wall.
I gotta say, the cosmic stuff has never been my jam, so I never kind of file it away. I feel like the movies have made me like start to have to pay attention to it, but yeah, I'm just like, whatever, you're big and you're glowy and you're gonna fix it with a snap or you're gonna break it with a snap. It's never been my thing, but I'm happy for people who are like, yeah, this is my thing. So many gods, so many Easter eggs.
It's never really been like my huge thing either. I think that like, I don't know, comic book wise, DC had always done galactic stuff, I think, a bit better than Marvel did in the comic books, but the movies are going all in and making it a little bit more accessible, even though it's at times a bit much, but it's making it really fun. But yeah, I loved Omnipotent City, just to go back, and I loved Russell Crowe chewing the scenery. And one criticism that I will add of this movie, which kind of ties into Omnipotent City and a few other elements. This movie has way too many MacGuffins going on, which for those of you who don't know, MacGuffin is just a term for like the thing that you need in a movie or any story, really. Thing you need in a story to solve a thing or to do a thing. And it's like, it is the I forget the specific name of the sword that is the god killer.
The Necrosword.
The Necrosword. So it's like the Necrosword's the MacGuffin. It's like the Necrosword is it's what curses him. If we take away the Necrosword, it stops everything. It's the Necrosword is actually what wants to kill the gods. Necrosword, Necrosword, Necrosword. Then we get to Omnipotent City, and it's like we get there within like 3 seconds, and Valkyrie's like, let's just take the lightning bolt and leave. The lightning bolt's what's going to fix everything. We need the lightning bolt. The lightning bolt's the MacGuffin. We get the lightning bolt. The lightning bolt will cause light, and then we'll have the lightning bolt. And it's like, okay, I guess the lightning bolt's the MacGuffin. But then also in Omnipotent City, they also lay down he's going to eternity. Eternity's the MacGuffin. You get one big wish. And it's like, we can't have this many fucking MacGuffins going. We can't have
then the actual MacGuffin ends up being Stormbreaker.
Exactly, and then it's
and then you're like, we already had that. That's been here since the beginning. That's too many MacGuffins.
There's too many, you've got to get the object things where it's like, make it the Necrosword. The Necrosword can open eternity or cut eternity. There's way too many just juggling objects and telling you to go places. Too many fetch quests, to use a video game term.
Which is weird for such a short, concise movie. It's not like it's like a dragging, epic, and they're like, oh, we got too many places. Or like an Uncharted, it's like, oh, we have to go here, 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 here. And it is very we only go 4 places, and we have a MacGuffin for each place for some reason. It is too many things that seem too important.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I will say, though, for the 4th MacGuffin, which doesn't really even do all that much, Mjolnir, the way that the pieces can all go out to do a strike attack.
Awesome.
Just a wide range attack with every piece, and then it all comes back in. Fucking cool.
Really cool and awesome.
So goddamn cool. A new way, your thing's broken and it made it more powerful? Yes.
Awesome.
Love it.
Yeah, really cool. Visually looked really good too. Everything about the semi-broken Mjolnir I was really into.
Love that.
Yeah, so I was really into that. Small criticism. They used the wrong Guns N' Roses tracks.
Oh no, did they?
It didn't work. It should have worked. But it didn't work. I think the Guns N' Roses tracks that they used were November Rain and Sweet Child of Mine. And Sweet Child of Mine not that songs have to make literal sense in the movie that they're used in, but tonally Sweet Child of Mine doesn't really work, and thematically doesn't make sense until the end of the movie.
He gets a sweet child. Well,
Yeah.
she's sweet. He gets a child.
Yeah, exactly. And November Rain kicks in like during an action scene, which is like a sad ballad one, but it's before Jane gets there and is dying. So it's like, and it kicks in like way too soft and not enough bass. And I'm like, and I really thought that like GNR and Thor was going to really like go peanut butter and jelly. They were going to fucking slap. But none of these songs slap the way that like Immigrant Song from Zeppelin slapped in Ragnarok. Like they don't hit the same. And it's really disappointing because I really feel like there's GNR tracks that work for this movie that like Night Train would fucking hit hard. If you want a slower one, Heaven's Door, You Could Be Mine is lightning fast. Like
Is Paradise City Guns N' Roses?
Yeah.
Because like when you go to Omnipotent City,
I think Paradise City could work. I think Paradise City could definitely work. And I think Welcome to the Jungle is a little overplayed.
It's used a lot.
Yeah. I mean, so was Immigrant Song by Zeppelin, but like you can make it your own. But I think that, I think it wasn't any of the right Guns N' Roses tracks.
I don't notice music, even when it's very famous. I think I remember Sweet Child of Mine liking that part.
Okay.
I don't remember what part that was in, but I do remember liking it. But I will say none of it like I was like boom like Immigrant Song, because I remember like the moment of Immigrant Song hitting me.
Yeah.
Which is weird because like not weird, but it almost feels like they should have just easily meshed this because James Gunn does everything involving the Guardians. Like, he will not let them be in a thing where he's like, I'm executive producing, I'm in charge of what these guys do. So, like, you think you run by him real quick, like, you think this lines up? You think this is the right GNR track?
What's
He's the music
song
man.
that hits?
Like, James Gunn is the music man of superhero movies. So I think you like, because music is also so easy to just, like, put in.
Yeah.
Like, you've edited it, you're like, what music's gonna go with this?
Yeah, especially if it's not like choreographed to it, you know what I mean?
So.
But like the sound of metal objects clanging just overwhelms the like high piano of the introduction of November Rain. Like you need something bassier that hits a bit harder. So yeah, it just wasn't the right tracks. It didn't slap.
I will agree on not slapping.
Putting the stamp down, not slap.
No slaps. I have another slight negative as well. They could not decide what the hell to do with Valkyrie in this movie. They kept pretending she was going to have an arc. They're like, I'm bored of being a king. I miss my girlfriend and also want to get a girlfriend again, or a boyfriend. I think she's bisexual in the comics. But then at the end of the movie, she's like, I'm still king and single. I'm like, why didn't Valkyrie get to do anything, have any kind of arc? Because like her Ragnarok arc is so like, I'm not going to fight anymore. I'm a shell of who I was. I have to find my motivations. And like, she fucking gets there. And in this movie, she's like, cool. Like, I love Tessa Thompson.
Yeah.
But like, to lay in two different arcs for her and to have neither of them pay off in any way.
Yeah, she's just kind of around by the end of it. Yeah.
I was very disappointed. I was like, come on, Taika, you're better than this. I don't know if they like made him cut that she got a girlfriend at the end. Because like, Korg got his boyfriend.
Yeah, Korg got his
like
boyfriend, Dwayne The Rock, but
Dwayne The Rock is a very good joke.
Hey, you can be a joke and a loving boyfriend, Dwayne The Rock.
I'm sure he's wonderful. I can't wait to meet him.
You can be both.
I love him a lot, but it's not a human woman or human man in a relationship.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I agree with you. I've definitely felt that it was a little bit meandering and wandering for Valkyrie as to what they wanted to do. There were even times where I'm like, does Valkyrie have a thing for Jane and Mighty Thor? And I kind of wanted them to explore that.
Honestly?
And they
into it.
I'm into it. And I think also that creates like an interesting and complicated, complex and dynamic between the three of them. And even if she doesn't pursue it, because Thor still has his feelings, I still think that like there's something to play there between like, we are good friends who are on an adventure together, and I know that this is your ex, but I have a thing for her now, and it's all very complicated. Leaning into that could be good. I think there's also a story to be told about like the friend who is not flirting with someone they want to flirt with because it is their friend's ex or whatever. Yeah, but they didn't really go that direction either, so it's just a little missed.
I will say I really liked the scene where Valkyrie came to check on Jane, and it was just the two of them without Thor there.
Yeah.
Because the MCU is so lacking in female friendships. Like, as much as they've added female characters throughout the years, like, female friendships or family members are pretty rare. Like, it's like, it used to be Nebula and Gamora, but now Gamora's dead, so that's gone. And it was Black Widow and her sister, and Black Widow's dead. So like
although Gamora's out there, but she doesn't remember that she's friends with her sister.
We got to rebuild.
A new timeline. Gamora is running around like a scamp.
It's a rebuild year.
Yeah.
For that relationship. So like right now there are no real female friendships that I'm attached to in the MCU. So like this was just so brief, and I like it felt fleshed out. I liked that Valkyrie kind of already knew Jane was Thor when we got there. She was like,
right.
New Thor's great. Love New Thor. It was really nice. And even if some kind of arc was involving that, I just wanted something more for Valkyrie.
Yeah, or even like we could bring Sif into the picture there as well,
She was
because
really
that would be
used for nothing, huh?
But I didn't really think about it until you brought it up, that it does feel like all of the Sif stuff was reshoots, or was like Jamie Alexander just became available the last like month or last week of filming, and they were like, get her in the background of some scenes, but obviously not interacting with the thematic purpose of Valkyrie or anything. I didn't really notice that until you brought it up, but clearly Jamie Alexander shit is all reshoots. But like that could be a good character to kind of pair Valkyrie up with, which is like a warrior partner who wants to go on adventures, but also understands the obligation and duty of Asgard and the kingdom and surviving as a whole.
Oh, yeah. And like Sif seemed to be like a warrior in Asgard during a time where the Valkyries were kind of forgotten, and she had to like earn her place as a female warrior and like work really hard at it. Like they would have an incredible relationship in either friendship or romance. Like, yeah, really weird. Although, you know what? Kudos to Sif. She survives everything.
Oh, yeah, you can't
Just
stop
by
Sif.
not being around. Hela didn't get her. Thanos on the ship didn't get her. Gore the God Killer didn't get her. Sif is just cruising. Like, she lost an arm, but she's really surviving a lot of things.
It is really Sif and the play actors are the people who will survive anything, it would seem.
Matt Damon will not die.
Man cannot be killed.
I mean, crazy to think no Loki. Speaking of men who can't be killed, I was wildly shocked. Not even an after credit.
Nothing.
No Loki whatsoever.
Nothing
Marvel
at all.
finally resisted the temptation of putting Loki in something, because they love a touch of Loki.
We got a back tat from a back tat RIP, which was lovely.
You know what? Genuinely lovely.
Yeah, very nice.
A really nice reason to have Chris Hemsworth get naked.
Oh, yeah. Oh, always a delight to see that rockin' bod, and then a nice little tribute tat as well. So that was lovely. But yeah, no, just Matt Damon as Loki, which is very funny. And then Chris's brother, I forget which Hemsworth that is. I think it's Luke.
That one is Liam.
That's Liam. Okay.
Oh, no, it's Luke. Sorry. You're
it's
right.
Luke, yeah.
No.
So Luke Hemsworth as himself, who they are looking more and more alike actually by the day, especially with like the new hair for Chris in this movie. Like in Ragnarok, it was like that. His Luke looked like a parody of Chris. In this one, I'm like, oh, you're the same fucking dude.
You are the same guy. I actually thought that was Chris Hemsworth's stunt double. I didn't even think it was his brother. And it's weird to think that I think his stunt double should look more like him than his brother, but you get it.
Yeah. And then Melissa McCarthy as Hela. That was fun as hell. I tell you one quick thing that I was actually sincerely hoping for, even before seeing the movie, and especially once the actors showed up, with Asgard now being on Earth. I was really hoping Ben Kingsley as Trevor from Shang-Chi and from Iron Man 3 would be doing plays with them. I don't know how they would, but I thought that would have been just a delightfully funny thing to be like, we've got mythical actors and also another actor who's seen some weird shit.
That would be very funny. I don't know if he stayed in the Magic City at the end of Shang-Chi.
I don't know either, but you can write him out or into.
He's looking for acting opportunities, and he's used to some shit.
He's teaching the Asgardians the classics or whatever. Like, Asgardians don't know Shakespeare, and he's teaching them.
Or they, like, really do. Like, we knew Shakespeare.
Ah, right.
Oh, Bill? Our old friend
Billy.
Bill.
Oh, Billy boy.
I was the Merchant of Venice.
Oh.
That was me.
Oh, shit.
Here's what I wanted to see. Very dumb joke that I really thought was going to be there. When Jane got to Valhalla and Heimdall was there, I thought Sif's arm was going to be there.
I was also expecting that joke. Oh,
and Sif's arm.
Yeah.
Because, like, it's such a funny thing when Thor says it, like, maybe your arm's in Valhalla. But then when we actually go to Valhalla, like, we got to see an arm just waiting at the door, like, when's the rest of my body going to get here?
And also, for him to be like, you don't get to go to Valhalla because you didn't die in battle. You like succumbing to your wounds later doesn't count. But then also, Jane died of cancer.
Actually, hear me out. I'm not to ruin your fun. I'm so sorry. I actually kind of like this. I like the idea that a battle can be anything.
Oh, okay.
Because she definitely was not killed by Gore. Like using the hammer is what killed her. Gore was already defeated. It was like minutes later, and she did die of cancer.
Okay.
But she died battling cancer.
Ah, I see what you're saying.
And I actually really like that idea that still gets you into Valhalla because you are still fighting. You're still a warrior. I think it's nice.
I'm not saying she shouldn't be there. I'm saying what Thor said to Sif is rude. To be like, I think battling your mortal wounds that you received during a battle is still battling as well.
I think it's still battling,
scenario.
But I would also bring it up to someone dying as a just in case. Like, just in case. Like, do you think those are the rules? I interpreted the rules very differently. Because Thor's not deciding whether she gets to go.
Yeah, that's fair.
Thor is just like, the way I read them?
The gods of gods. Thor's gods are deciding.
You won't get in right now.
Gotcha. Now,
which I think is nice of him.
So that is nice.
Making sure she gets in.
I expected the arm. I did expect a callback to the arm that we never got.
I'm glad we both wanted the arm.
But when it also showed up in Valhalla, I was expecting a Loki nod there because I was expecting to be like, "Where's his brother?"
The sun will shine on us again, brother.
But like, you know, obviously Thor's not there, and obviously like Loki now is a new timeline guy who's actually out there working for the Time Bureau. Like even without an appearance by Hiddleston to be like, where's his brother? And Heimdall being like, he's not here. Something has changed in the timeline, like implying that like
it'd be a good setup.
Loki's not here. Like Loki's see you in season 2 or whatever. Like an acknowledgement was kind of what I was half expecting.
I get that. I actually would expect Loki to be there because that Loki did die. Like that Loki didn't get reincarnated.
Right.
The Avengers Loki from a different timeline is Loki the show. It's weird.
How time variants get into Valhalla, I think, is very complicated.
Oh man, that's some spreadsheets right there. That's a couple forms.
There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, that's gonna be But I like that idea of a setup, and it's like because the Jane and Heimdall scene was nice, but it didn't set anything up. And then like the Zeus scene, obviously, at the end.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. I haven't gotten that jazzed from a cameo in a minute.
I was ready to start like chanting for Roy Kent.
We did a little bit, like because it's the final one. Yeah, it's the final one. So the movie was over, and we were just losing our minds.
Yeah, absolutely. I was all about it. It is so exciting. That was one where it's like it doesn't affect anything, but like. We're just all hyped for it. For Brett Goldstein is the actor's name who plays
who is
him.
Just in such a perfect like time of media of like we love this guy. There's only one more season of Ted Lasso coming out. What's he gonna do next? And we're like, this is it. It's like the exact opposite of when I saw Harry Styles at the end of Eternals, and I was like, who? What? I don't care. What's happening? And this I was like, who? What? I care. What's happening? It's Roy Kent, and he's Hercules.
Brilliant.
Delightful. I can't wait for this like very angry Hercules, I assume, unless he's going to play him very differently. Because Hercules is actually quite jovial and fun in a lot of the comics.
He can be, yeah. I think a Hercules who, I mean, I don't know if his dad is dead now. You seem to be like just dying of his wounds for a long time, / recovering / can't be killed.
I think he'll be fine.
But yeah, I think that having thinned out the movie a little bit, like having a next movie that's just like, it's Hercules versus Thor. Like, okay, that's actually, I could fuck with that a little bit. That's fun.
Thor 5, more Roy Kent.
Absolutely.
And just one final goofy actual maybe question for me near the end is, does Thor not get a wish in eternity? What's up with that?
They did, it's dumb. But
you only get one altogether, like for the whole universe?
They did seed it in Omnipotent City where they were like, whoever gets to eternity first gets a wish.
Right,
so they did say that only the person who gets there first is allowed to make one wish.
Okay, well, in that case, I'm going to criticize Gore's wishing. Because I think you can wish to be alive with your daughter. Like...
Right.
What's your wish? I'd like to be alive with my daughter who's also alive. Period. There you go, man.
Done.
You've done it.
Done.
It's a wish in the middle of eternity. I think you cannot die.
A single wish, yeah, I think so too. Like, who knows how any of the rules work or
I
what
mean, why
Eternity
isn't Loki
is
in
gonna say.
Valhalla?
And
We're
all bebopping and scatting around some rules. It also means that Eternity was a second option for Thanos to wipe out the universe as well.
Seems like a way easier option.
There's always a second ultimate power. There's always another, I should say, ultimate power, air quote, in any comic book universe, So, but yeah, only the first one gets
All
a
right.
wish.
So only one person gets a watery little wish.
Just one.
Just one? And then we're done? And
Yep.
then there's never another wish?
No.
Jeez.
No more
So
wishes ever.
All of eternity was just to be like that one girl.
Yeah, so you can just leave that, Thor can just
Just
leave
leave the
that
door
door
open.
open when he leaves.
Just a new tourist attraction.
Yeah, people can just go
You guys-
see Eternity.
You want to go see eternity?
Yeah.
You put some rubber boots on.
Which I guess is the beginning of time, end of time, all of time
More
happening at
questions.
once simultaneously. So Eternity's complicated. Well, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? So now that we've discussed what we discussed, what would you change about this movie if you could change anything? Before we do get into the final question, we want to thank our other wonderful sponsor of today's episode, our friends over at NordVPN.
Oh, NordVPN. Thank you for all the content I can now access because of your wonderful VPN services.
Absolutely. They have VPN services which are easy to use. You can connect with one click or enable auto connect for 0-click protection. And what it's going to do is it is going to change your internet service to appear/have access to other countries, which works in a couple different ways and with a couple different benefits. It will provide additional security for you, the user, so it's going to disguise where you're coming from, and it can also provide you, the user, additional access to internet and websites that might only be available in other countries or regions that you're not in.
Oh, or yeah, get extra content not available in your country. It's great stuff. You're secure and you're getting more content with your VPN at amazing speed. It's confirmed by speed tests. NordVPN is the fastest VPN out there, so you will not have your internet throttled. It'll be throttling fast instead of throttling slow.
I guess throttles can go both ways,
Double.
huh?
It's a dual
Throttle
throttle.
is used as a negative term, but you can do a throttle both ways.
I'm bringing back positive throttling.
Let's do a throttle up. So
with NordVPN.
You can do a throttle up with NordVPN, and it's good on. You can use it on up to 6 devices. You can have it on every major platform: Windows, Android, iOS, Mac, Android TV, whatever it is that you got, Linux. It is able to support it, and you can use it. So grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/TFS to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan, plus free threat protection, plus one additional month for free. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. nordvpn.com/TFS. And thank you, NordVPN, for your support.
Thank you, Nord.
And as well, we will remind you, as we do every week, if you haven't already, subscribe, rate, review. You know what's up.
You know what's up. 5-star rating wherever you're listening to this right now. We will love it. It will touch our hearts. And leave it for a couple other podcasters. Their hearts will be touched. Be careful when you're touching a heart. You can stop it because it can be too kind. But try.
Try it out.
Try it out. See if you can stop a heart.
See if you can, touch a heart. Don't
Touch a
stop a
heart.
heart. Touch a heart.
Touch
Don't
a
stop
heart.
it.
You could touch our heart.
Touch a heart like in Matrix Revolutions when Neo reaches in and touches a heart.
Oh, and restarts a heart.
And restarts a heart, and then it's oh man, it's this movie was a mixed bag, but you did it.
But Neo left a 5-star review of Trinity's life.
You
and
know
she
he
came
did.
back to life.
You know that boy did.
You could be Neo.
So do that. Free way to support the podcast sincerely helps us out. And if you do want to help out the podcast monetarily and get cool bonuses for it, check us out over on Patreon, which is a monthly subscription service where you can subscribe at whatever is in your budget, $1 a month, 5, 10, 20, whatever it is that you can afford. You can cancel or change your level at any given month if your finances change, which shit happens. We understand that. But you're going to get cool bonuses no matter what. But for fans of the podcast, you're probably most interested in the $10 hero level, where every month we do an exclusive bonus episode of the podcast. And we've done, if you want more Taika in your life, we've done Our Flag Means Death.
Oh, that was a fun episode. We love Taika. This month we're doing Stranger Things, part 2 of season 4. If it's not out yet, it will be soon.
It'll be out soon.
It'll be out soon. Don't you? We'll got you.
We'll get you there.
We get you there. And there's 80 backlog episodes. So if you need more talk from superheroes, it's out there.
Oh, it's all out there, baby.
It's out there, baby.
So head on over to patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That's patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. And now, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? Diana, what would you change?
My biggest change is actually going to be at Omnipotent City. I feel like Zeus really set up a thing that probably should have happened, which is Gore never got to Omnipotent City. So in my version of the movie, Gore like sneaks in with Thor. He's following him. He knew he was going to go to Omnipotent City. And the lightning bolt is the MacGuffin to get to the Eternity. And that's what Gore needs. So Gore breaks in. He starts killing everyone in kind of the middle of Thor's speech. Gore is the one who kills Zeus because I found this whole Thor killing Zeus thing. Like, I'm like, well, you're the most powerful god now. Like, I'm not even worried about Gore if Thor's powerful enough to kill Zeus and wield his lightning bolt. But if Gore kills Thor's mentor, like the guy Thor based himself off of, that is actually like hugely personal, and it's like, oh my god, this guy's so much more powerful than me. He's killing Zeus. So I think my biggest change is, and then you kind of have this like black and white versus like the most bright place, which I think would be very visually interesting. So my big thing is Gore is going to go into Omnipotent City, kill a bunch of gods, kill Zeus, take the lightning bolt, and that's what he needed to get to Eternity. And then most of it still is the same, like Thor and Valkyrie and Mighty Thor go to the black and white world alone because all the other gods are like scared or dead and like, oh no, and they still want to save the kids. I just wanted to, and then you just get a little bit more Gore, and Christian Bale gets a little bit more development, and he looks a little bit scarier because he killed Thor's like mentor god. That's my biggest change. And also Valkyrie and Sif date.
Nice.
Yeah. Of course they do.
Why wouldn't they?
They're dating at the end. Valkyrie needs an arc, and they'd be cute together.
Boom.
It only makes sense. There's no other reason for Jamie Alexander to be there in my books.
Yeah.
Andrew, what would you change?
First of all, I love that. I adore that. I'm fully on board for all of it. I think it's fantastic. Yes to Sif and Valkyrie smooches, and also as cool as the black and white section was, I feel like we never got a good fight from Gore because the fight in the city was kind of nothing, barely finished CGI, and it wasn't really him. And a fight at Omnipotent City would have been cool as hell. I agree with you. That would have been an amazing thing.
Cool.
But my big change, I'm definitely on board with yours. So incorporating that. Okay. Plus, here's my big change. There's no Eternity. As a second MacGuffin, it's fucking gone. Like, there's no Eternity. Okay. That's finished. Here's what I've got. The first god that Gore kills. All right, the first god that he kills, I forget exactly what he refers to him but that one in the Oasis, he refers to him as the god of light. And he kills him. And then we go to a second location in the galaxy that's black and white. I'm like, your homeworld should be in black and white. You've literally killed all the light. And I know that there's a difference between light and color, technically, and like, you know, that isn't exactly what that means. But in God world, we can kind of play around with that. I think that he should kill the god of light. And then that black and white world is his home world, all right? And he kills the god of light because the god of light is not answering his prayers, but his daughter is sick. Not dead, sick. So his daughter is sick and still alive in this world that's now turning to black and white as he's getting crazier, and he's hunting down more gods, asking them to save his daughter, and when they say no, he kills them. That's why he's hunting the gods. Okay. It's not a crazy, I hate enchanted object that makes you eviler than you actually are. He's hunting down gods and killing them when they refuse to help and save his daughter. That's the story. Then I think like the black and white section in the movie, it's the final section or like the second final.
You go twice.
I think with no Eternity, the black and white section should be in the middle. Thor, Valkyrie, Mighty Thor, they all lose. They have to recuperate. They're going to go to Omnipotent City. And that's when I'm with you. They're being chased. They have to get there. And a quick tweak to the relation between Mjolnir and Jane's sickness. So they have this thing in the movie where it's like, they say it's like every time you use it, it's zapping your mortal strength and making it less likely that you'll survive the cancer. which is an interesting kind of thing. But in the movie as it is, it kind of makes it as like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like it's a win-lose no matter what. Either she doesn't use her power, in which case people could die and she has a chance to live, or she could use her power, in which case she could save people and kind of ruin her chance to live. It's a mixed bag either way. I want the opposite. I want, as long as she stays in Thor mode, she is always going to be healthy. And that is the sacrifice she has to make. And as we get to the end of the movie, it is Mighty Thor, and it is Thor fighting Gore, who's been killing and slaughtering these gods at Omnipotent City, who won't save his daughter, and be like, no god will do the selfless thing. No god will actually help anyone. And I want her to give Mjolnir to his daughter. So I want her to make because she makes the sacrifice in this movie. She makes the sacrifice play.
But you can do it without the wish. You can do like a real direct sacrifice play.
Do the direct sacrifice play. Do the I am the new god of thunder. It is me, Mighty Thor, and I am going to allow your child to live and sacrifice myself. Not all gods are bad. And let that, because the movie ends with Thor as the surrogate father of this daughter, and they're using the hammers.
Yeah.
So if we're going to do that, why not have this daughter who is the daughter of Thor's?
Yeah, who would really feel more like Jane's daughter in that way if Jane just directly gave her life.
Yes.
Like that would be both of their daughter in that scenario.
Yeah.
I love that.
So her father was a villain. She's being raised by Thor, and Mighty Thor is what gave her life. And that's what ends this Gore's crusade, to be like, I'll kill every god until one agrees to save my daughter. So that's my big change, is that Gore's daughter is alive and sick, and the hammer cures you of sickness, which is why Jane was looking for it and why she makes a sacrifice at the end.
I think that's wonderful. I love that. It's so much more emotional. It really gives more of an arc to everybody. It gives more for Gore to do and more reasoning behind his actions, more heart-wrenching. Love it. Jane's a doctor. She's not a medical doctor, but she'll still save a life.
She'll still save a life.
She'll still save a life.
Yeah.
No, that's lovely. I love that.
Yeah, so that's what I'm all about. I don't like magical objects that make you more villainous. I think you need to own your actions, but you can still be complicated. And I think in that scenario, he would be.
Yeah, it's never.
I think there's too many MacGuffin chasing, so we don't need the fourth location of a special place.
It's never satisfying when the thing is making you do it, that you're wearing.
Yeah.
No, it's got to be your choices.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, so that's
Wonderful
my big
change.
thing. And I think that then with No Eternity, that final act should be Omnipotent City, and I'm with you. That's where everything is going on. That should be a big battle scene.
Then you have a real build-up. Because going to Omnipotent City and then Black and White World, Eternity felt like a downfall of this is the least interesting location.
Yeah, it really is. Yep.
So yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Great change.
Thank you. Great change to you as well. And then there's more smooches at the end as well.
Everybody smooch.
Yeah, Valkyrie smooches. Literally every person in the cast smooches Valkyrie.
Ooh,
How
great
about
for
that?
Valkyrie.
Valkyrie has a terrific time.
Orgy.
Valkyrie.
Valkyrie goes
That's
to the
the
orgy.
post-credit joke.
Valkyrie goes to the orgy.
Valkyrie the orgy is still happening.
She wanted to.
She
was down.
The last thing brought up about the orgy in Omnipotent City was, where are we going to host it? She offers Asgard. She offers New Asgard as the location for the orgy.
Oh my God. That is a perfect change.
There we go. We've done it.
We've done it.
God damn it. We've done it again. Well, that is going to be it for this week. I think we've fixed this one and had a lot of goddamn fun doing it. Next week, we're going to be back on the podcast to talk about more Marvel MCU stuff. We're going to be talking about Miss Marvel next week.
More Marvel?
Miss Marvel. Next week on the podcast, we'll be talking about that. In the meantime, if you want to hear us talk about more Taika Waititi stuff, our Patreon episode on Our Flag Means Death is up over there, and we'll have more about the final finale of Stranger Things up shortly over at patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. And if you want to get a hold of us, you can reach me on Twitter at Ivimey, Ivimey.
You can reach me at Words of Diana.
And you can reach both of us at From Superheroes, and we'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye.